Hello, everyone. I'm Ian Nicholas, joined by my co-host Cortland Parrott, and a very special guest for episode 3 of the Rams Revealed podcast, Chris Silvestri, the associate head coach and defensive coordinator, as well as the defensive line coach for the new Canaan Rams football team. Coach, how are you doing in this quarantine?
I'm doing surprisingly well. My family's doing well, and we're just kind of doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, just staying in it, staying active. You showed us that little golf reel of yours a second ago. You're staying,
Yes,
putting around.
trying to stay in the zone.
All right. I like that. Stay in the zone.
So we're basically going to follow your career path. You as a player,
Okay.
I know you talk a lot about as you were playing, and you relate that to your coaching. I've heard you a lot through gym class talking about you playing your playing days. So we'll get to dive in more to that. Ian, would you like to start?
Totally. So obviously, Coach, you're one of the most well-known sports figures in the town for good reason, not only of what you've done as a coach, but what you did in your high school career. I mean, we could go through the records, but to say the least, you were an awesome running back. You hold almost all the rushing records in your high school for the high school. And you were also a great player on the defensive side of the ball at safety at New Canaan High. So just take us back to those days of the mid '90s and the run you guys had and the championships you won, and tell us a little bit about your high school experience playing under Coach Marinelli.
Sure. So I guess you start with that freshman year, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I had a great coach, and he eventually became my mentor, my defensive coaching mentor, and I still hold him in well regard today. That's Joe DeTola.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know Joe DeTola.
Yeah.
A lot of people, he's been retired since about 2009. A lot of people don't realize how great of a coach and motivator he was, and he got us all hungry to play at the next level, the varsity level.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so that freshman year was a lot of fun. It's your first start or your first introduction to high school, and having a mentor and a leader like that as a freshman coach really kind of made us salivate for more football. Back then, we had really good football teams. They never got over the hump of winning an FCX championship, but they made it a couple times. And by the time, little known fact, I didn't start at running back until the second game of my senior year. I was in front. There was Tommy Hawes was a running back, a really good running back, who was ahead of me, and he got hurt, and so it was just an opportunity. We talk about opportunities a lot, like make the most of your opportunity. That's what football does. It gives a lot of people opportunities to play, and when your time is called, will you be ready to answer it?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so much that I was ready to answer it as much as it was you could almost plug anyone in there. We had such a good team. That 1993 team was the first team that won both FCIAC and state championship in the same year in like 25 years. So
Wow.
we had a tremendous team. We had kids who won. Our offensive tackle went to University of Ohio to play. We had another kid at Williams. Like we had, I'm going to say at least 14 or 15 kids on that team went on to play college football. So we were well stoked, and we worked very hard in the weight room and running, and we wanted to be that first team to do all of that. And just it was a tremendous motivation that year to just play and do everything we needed to do to get to the States in the FCX championship. I think one time during that season we played, I want to say we played, I think 5 teams that were undefeated that year and
Wow.
ranked at 5. And I think we shut out all of them, and that tells you what type of defense we had, what type of
Mm-hmm.
mindset we had. I mean, we really, breathed and lived football every day. And we did our stuff in we did our due diligence in the classroom, and it was a real good team. So the records and everything that I did, we had a really good team.
And you say you guys were close knit. You guys did a lot of things together. You guys worked hard together. Now, were those guys that played a bunch of sports together, or was that mostly football for you and your other teammates?
We were all at least 2 sport athletes. For the most part, half of them played lacrosse in the spring. Half of us played baseball in the spring. 1 or 2 ice hockey players, probably 5 or 6 basketball players.
So you guys were together most seasons.
Yeah, we came together for football, though. That was the ultimate kind of thing that we came together for. That was the sport that we all played.
Well, that's a great point. And actually, I never knew that you only really were a featured running back for 1 year, because Cortland and I were talking about why in your coaching career you have been a defensive coach, but now we understand that you were a captain that year as a starting safety, right? And you headed into the year with that role.
So I started as a junior at free safety, and I always loved playing running back. And I played a lot of running back. I started many games at running back my junior year because, again, another kid got hurt. So, it was, and then we tried to 2 platoon as much as possible. So it was, I got a little bit lucky in the position and the team I was on to be able to contribute.
Yeah. And then next you graduated after that great season in 1993, and you went to Lafayette. You won Rookie of the Week, and you won a Patriot League title. Was the transition from high school to college, was that an easy transition, or was it playing?
It was playing. It took a couple weeks to realize that you just need to play football. If you enough, just play it. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to say, well, I'm everybody who was on that team were stars on their football team, right? So make the most of it. Just play football, and eventually you'll play. And I was able to, by the end of the year, start at 3 different positions as a. Now, I didn't do too well academically there, which is why I ended up transferring. But that's the one thing. I don't regret anything because of where I am now and how happy I am with my life. And if you never know what would have happened if I stayed on and did things differently. But that it was a lot of football work and a lot of balancing. And it was the first time I was by myself and trying to balance both academics and athletics at a Division I level, and that's very difficult.
Well, Coach, it's funny that you mentioned the academics, because then you transferred after 1 year at Lafayette to Fairfield U. And not only, I mean, I know you've been really humble here. You were all American honors, but also you were all academic honors there. And obviously you won the MAC title. So tell us a little bit about your time after Lafayette at Fairfield, and what moving closer to home did for you and did for your football career at the time.
It was funny. It didn't feel like it was close to home, even though I was. I was still on a college campus and kind of isolated from my family for the most part. But you learn lessons, and I learned a big lesson that study the courses I need to study. Don't wait till the last second to register. Little things like that you kind of learn through your experience, and you also learn how to balance your athletic commitments along with your academic commitments. And I had a valuable lesson kind of under my belt to learn and move from. So I was able to actually be a little bit of a mentor to some of the younger kids about how to do that. I understood when we first got on at Fairfield, it was a brand new program. So I was one of the older kids on the team. So I got 3 years playing there and made lifelong friends. And because it was so tough, we had a tough coach. he's a coach under the Bear Bryant tree of coaches.
Ah,
So he put us through the grind. And I think the day we showed up, we had 123 players on the roster. In 3 years, 9 of us remained from that original 120.
wow. That shows
So
just how tough it was, really.
it was, and those 9 of us still are very close, and there's actually a number of coaches in Connecticut, a couple coaches in Connecticut who are part of those original 9
Wow.
who made it. So it's kind of a badge of honor, and we certainly talk about it every now and then, and you learn a tremendous amount.
Uh,
Go on.
and moving past your playing career, you moved to coaching. Was there an inspiration? You talk about this group of 9 players who men are coaches. Was it together like we want to continue sharing the game? And you spoke that you were a mentor to players. Did that play a role, or was there some other inspiration?
By the time I was, a senior, I was no longer a mentor with those players. Those kids kind of knew what to do. It was just that first year. And whether I was correct or incorrect on what I was doing with them or leading them, I don't know. They found their own way. But it was a funny story how I stayed on to coach. I had my coach, Coach Kiesel, pulled me into his office and he said, I think you should try out for this team. And when it doesn't work, you start on February 1st. I was like, well, February 1st, you're going to be the defensive backs coach. So that's how it happened. I didn't have anything to do. And I graduated in December early. So we had break, and then February 1st came along.
Yeah, so you stayed on as a graduate assistant. You coached the DBs and outside linebackers.
Yes.
And then you came back here to New Canaan, and you filled that same role when you first got here.
Yes.
So how did it feel? And I guess this is a question you might get a lot, but what is the difference between playing under Coach Marinelli and then when you came back here coaching alongside him, even though it wasn't too long a time you'd been apart? How was that process like at the beginning, and how did that relationship form to where it is today?
Well, Coach Marinelli is very unique and the reason why he's successful is he likes to surround himself with different minds of football, and so that it's not just set in stone. You're able to pivot from, let's say, an I-pro backfield to the spread offense, right?
Yep.
That is a huge undertaking. But if you have the people around you, both offensively and defensively, I think it becomes a little easier to do that and to teach that. The only thing that the big difference I saw was Coach Marinelli as a coach. He was my coach. When he hired me to be a peer, he was my peer and he was my best friend. And we would discuss things in the office and we would share ideas and we would implement them. And he was the one to really talk about how coaching is nothing more than really, really good teaching. And you're able to add increased motivation, and you have to be organized with your thoughts and your plans and how you're going to present ideas to kids, and when it's too much or when it's too less, which I struggle with to this day. But that's the mentorship that Coach Marinelli has is how he's always pushing his coaches as peers instead of pushing his players as players.
Interesting to hear. And one of your statement years as the defensive back coach was about 6 years after, in 2008. Your defense, you guys were almost impossible to throw on. I believe you guys had almost 24, 25 passes intercepted that year. Was that you just getting comfortable in the coaching situation, or was that a group of players, or what was that success?
That was a progression. Those players are some of my best friends. Ondash, DeRocco's, Simmons, those guys. and I'm truly talking about best friends. I'm going to 2 of their weddings this July. I'm really
Hey.
excited, hopefully. So let me be clear that those kids were sponges for knowledge. They executed game plans. They understood the offenses they were going up against, and they were tremendous athletes. And that's makes it much easier as a coach. However, the progression from when I showed up to 2001 to 2006 or 2008 was the start of the spread offense. So when I was in college and coaching college, we went up against spread offenses quite regularly. When you come back to high school, it wasn't there yet with the spread offenses that you see and people throwing the ball 40 times a game. By the time, and so when I came in, I implemented, or we implemented, kind of a spread offense, defensive strategy for the defensive backfield, so that if somebody was going to throw the ball, we were going to be good. By the time 2008 came around, spread offenses were in its infancy in the FCAC. So we already had those coverages to stop a lot of the spread offenses we were going to see. And the offenses weren't sophisticated enough to pick up on some of our defensive strategies. So we were able to pick a lot of balls off playing trap coverages and different types of trips coverages that were really designed to stop basic spread offenses attacks.
Yeah, and now, I mean, you got to remember, you were talking about these defensive backs who are now your best friends. I mean, coaching has really, since college, been everything for you. You've been here for 18 years, since 2002, and you've been here in the FCAC where it has developed from a league where you're running the ball and you have all these jumbo formations to now you have Drew, who just left, and obviously he's a great quarterback, and Mike Collins, who are airing the ball out constantly. But yeah, and that's crazy that you've really been there through it all.
And now it's coming back. So now you're seeing more 11 and 20 personnel offenses with that sniffer back that's more of a hybrid guy. And you line up on the right, but it'll block like a tight end to the left, sneak him out on passes. So it's almost coming full circle. And that's what football does. It reinvents itself every decade or so.
Yep.
Yeah, and you mentioned those relationships. You teach at New Canaan High School.
Yeah.
How has teaching kind of helped your relationship with your players?
It's been outstanding. I mean, my greatest accomplishment is becoming a teacher. I show up to school every day excited about my life and what I'm going to do and how I'm going to teach lessons to my students. And one of the great things about teaching is that it's really been put on the forefront, and coaching's been kind of put on the back burner a little bit when it comes to every day, because now I have 340 players instead of a group of 15 that I coach, and so it's very important. It doesn't matter male, female. It doesn't matter. I really enjoy teaching that much, and I put that same effort and fire getting ready for a Darien game as I would for my 11th grade health class. So I hope, and that's I take a lot of pride in that.
Coach Melzer, we talked to him and he said education was first for him. And for you, I think, it really does show, because I remember I had you freshman year, and you bring that same passion that you bring on the football field to health class, and you can tell that you really want to make it as fun but also as educational as possible. So would you say that your teaching in the classroom has helped you as a teacher on the football field and in the film room, or is it the other way around, or is it like a bit of both?
It's both. Some of the technology we're able to utilize for football actually helps me with my classroom instruction, and my classroom instructions, certainly how to motivate and use different strategies, helps with the coaching aspect of it. So you just keep an open mind and see what works and experiment and plan and organize. And it's cyclical. It's goes both ways.
Exactly. Yep.
And you mentioned technology, and you mentioned before how football is kind of remaking itself every few years. How has the advancements of Huddle and different film programs helped your defense in recognizing what offenses they're facing?
It's invaluable. You're able to put together specific projects through online interactions where kids can study from home. And, I can do all of the film breakdown from home. So all of that used to take away from my family or not being around my family, I can do right here, right now. And quite honestly, the advent of Huddle and with the current state that we're in, I'm able to, I wouldn't say merge both the classroom and the my football duties. I'm sorry, my daughter's kind of running around in the background.
No problem.
But I'm able to do a lot of football planning, off-season work right here, right now, without the travel time, without the distractions. I can kind of sit down and get a lot of work done. It's been kind of neat.
And in getting back to your career path, in a sense, so you were on the staff for 12 years, or well, you're still on the staff, but
Yeah.
from 2002 to 2013. In 2014, you got promoted to defensive coordinator, and then
Yes.
2018, you had the title of associate head coach, and then last year you were named the defensive line coach alongside your father.
Yeah.
Which coach, your father, he coached me when I was on the D line, and
Yeah.
he's an awesome motivator there. And tell us a little bit about how it was this past season coaching alongside him and how he taught you lessons growing up, because I know he's been coaching for a long time, and how you guys worked together last year and how he continues to bring it today.
Yeah, I think that my father's best strength is that he is truly player focused. So he has no ego out there.
No.
He wants to make sure that each of his players are getting equal amount of attention, equal amount of praise, equal amount of criticism. So he is truly democratic in that perspective. And it's so hard for us always to do that. But working with him this year, being, responsible for specific schemes or defenses do, and making sure the fundamentals are being taught, and just seeing different positions, I sometimes have got to go away from the defensive line and see what, the linebackers are doing or the defensive backs. And so I was able to leave my father with the defensive line quite often, and I would be extremely satisfied with the fact that he would continue developing those players with understanding what we're trying to do that week. So he certainly had the scheme in mind, and he was very good with carrying out the game plan when I wasn't there.
Yeah, we can see that you have a lot of trust and, I guess, chemistry with your father, which is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
And then one thing we were talking about earlier is you're a 9-time state championship. You've won FCX twice. You were 2014 FCX Assistant Coach of the Year. What is next for New Canaan High School football? What is your goals in the future?
Before I talk about goals in the future, I think it would be remiss to talk about in 2014, I took over a defense that was very well versed in scheme and fundamentals from the previous defensive coordinator, which was Billy Kurtz. I don't know if you guys remember who Bill Kurtz
my former freshman football coach. Yeah.
And a tremendous freshman football coach, right?
Yep.
I mean, he was, I talk about Joe Totolo being a mentor in the early to late 2000s. But Billy Kurtz was a mentor to me from 2010 to 2013 as the defensive coordinator. He had put a lot of trust into me. I learned a lot of stuff from him and how to look at the game differently. So, he needs a lot of credit about where our football program is today from a defensive perspective, as well as the coaches we have on staff now, Miska, Archimone,
Yes.
Alfano. I mean, those guys are tremendous coaches, and it just, when we all work together, you get 20-0 games in the biggest game of the year. I mean, that's what it is. Those guys are tremendous motivators, great coaches, great teachers. And so going back to Billy Kurtz, he was a tremendous mentor of mine, and somebody who I will always be indebted to.
It's a really good point there. I mean, you do obviously take credit yourself for what you did and what you continue to do, but you have to realize that, there was a foundation in place there. It's not like, it's not like Fairfield U where you were stopping in and it's just a brand new place, brand new program. You got an established program here at Canaan. So tell us a little bit about maybe some of the guys you have. I mean, I know this is a valuable time for a coach. It might not feel like it for football, but when you get those off-season workouts in and you start to install what you want to do this year, tell us about some of the guys you have, offensively or defensively that you're really excited to work with, maybe that you haven't worked with as much or that you've seen a lot of potential in last year with some guys leaving that could make a bigger impact.
Yeah, I think, we need to get Alex Tashir back healthy. I thought he had a tremendous year this year. And then Ethan Shallon was outstanding as well. And both of those guys started every game for us, and so we have those guys coming back, and I'm going to really lean heavily on them.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Pickering had just improved every week to the point where he played and started that Wilton game and did a tremendous job, throughout the year in specific packages as a pass rush specialist. And he's coming into his own. He's getting stronger in the weight room, and before all this happened. But those three I'm going to really rely on heavily to carry out game plans and leadership. I can't say enough about how hard they've worked up till now too. So I'm excited. And then you took a look at like Teddy DeClue and Ned Brady. Those guys are mainly offensive guys, but in pinches we may be able to use them. And younger kids, I can think of Dylan Blair, Justin Villeneuve, and Bennington, Peter Bennington. Those guys are all guys who I had a lot of fun coaching, and I'm hoping that they're going to take the next step, because every year you're going to find gems like that. So, you're going to see people rise. So I'm looking for a couple of those kids to rise to the occasion this year.
It sounds like in the future, you just want your defenses to keep working, keep attacking, which is something that we see you do a lot of. You're very active on the sidelines, running up and down, jumping, inspiring people. So it's kind of cool to see that you're kind of helping players in, what you want them to do and what you want them to succeed in.
Well, your kids can't be enthusiastic if their coaches aren't enthusiastic. That's how I always felt. But I love being out there, so that kind of comes naturally. And we all have our good days and bad days, but that's something that I just love being out there. I almost feel like I'm playing the game. So, but the future. Somebody talked about the future earlier. The future is bright. We've got a good, strong program. I want football at New Canaan to continue to be a tremendous education outside the classroom. That's the first and foremost thing. I think we get so much out of it, and especially during a time like we're going through, how to handle adversity, how to bounce back, how to take the most out of any opportunity you're given, a la not starting the first 2 games your senior year at running back, and those are valuable life lessons that football can bring to you, and how to work together toward a common goal, or how to be there and pick each other up. It's right now, that's what we're going through in real life, and football is that education outside the classroom, along with health and PE, my other classes that I teach, that really help drive that lesson home that's so applicable to today. and what we're going through right now. So that's my hope for New Canaan's future, is to continue with what Coach Marinelli has built, and to make sure that foundation of the education outside the classroom continues.
I think that education is definitely going to stay in place. I mean, I wasn't the best player on the field, and I'm not starting for you guys next year, but I know that the lessons I learned, I moved to New Canaan pretty much because I love the football program and I love the town and the community that has been built here. And I think you're one of the big reasons why it will continue into the future as the way it does, as a teaching tool and not just a way to get athletes on the field. Now, you as a defensive coordinator, I'm a little curious. This is like a current events topic, and I want to know, you play Darien every year, and this is the team that you want to play every single season. You've had some awesome games over the last few years, and their defensive coordinator, Mike Forshay, just got promoted to head coach for this year.
I saw that.
So I don't know if you know Coach Forshay very well. I know he used to be the head coach over at Fairfield when they had one big school. Yep. But maybe tell us a little bit about, or the New Canaan athletic community, what they should expect in their future matchups with Coach Forshay for the foreseeable future, maybe.
Coach Forshay is an excellent coach, and you only have to go to look at their defenses year in and year out over the past 10 years that he's been involved, or 8 years that he's been involved. The most telling thing about Coach Forshay is, I think, how much his players respect and like him. He's not very well known outside of our communities, I'm sure, but he's a tireless worker. He is a very good motivator and a great teacher, and his players respect and like him. And he's going to bring, I think, a defensive tough-nosed, focus to Darien. I'm not sure what they're going to do with their offense, but I know that he will continue with great defenses. That's for sure. That's going to be something that he looks into. I'm not sure what he's going to do, if they're going to still continue being a 2-platoon team. But he has head coaching experience, and he was I know a guy who coached on his staff. He was a very good head coach at Fairfield Ward back when it was just one school, and I know that that coach thought he was a tremendous coach at the time. So he does have head coaching experience, so this is not his first go around. And sometimes, like a Bill Belichick, a shot at being the Browns head coach. And then came back and became the Patriots head coach.
And he kind of made it work in New England.
Kind of. Maybe.
But he's a tremendous guy and a stand-up guy, and just being involved in the football community, coaching community. I know him, and he's a good man.
Awesome. Good to hear. The rivalry will be strong as ever.
Yes, it will.
I've certainly enjoyed talking to you, Coach. We've heard a lot from Miska and other coaches we talked to that you guys want to inspire, kind of teach players on and off the field. So it's really cool to see how all the coaching on the staff kind of have the same mindset and are working together to kind of push the student athletes forward in both aspects of that.
Yeah. Student athlete is correct.
There we go. All right. So I think that's all we got for today. Coach Silvestri, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you back on the gridiron next year, and hopefully sooner rather than later. But I all know that those Friday night lights will be greatly, greatly appreciated when we're all, back and together, because football, it really helps bring the community back together. And Cortland, anything else before we close out?
Just thank you to Coach. I've had a pleasure watching you and your defensive through my 4 years of high school, and I'll be checking back in when I can from college and beyond the future.
Yeah, well, guys, it's been a lot of fun teaching you guys in PE, as well as coaching some of you guys on the football field. But it's been a lot of fun. Guys, keep up the great work, and be well and be safe.
Thank you, Coach.
We'll do that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, make sure to check out next week as we have more guests on and we kind of work through this pandemic. Thanks again to Coach Ian. Thanks for joining me, and see you guys next time.